Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we are diving into chapter 53 of our G-Wave series, and we're going to explore the fascinating world of emotions and how they are connected to our G-Waves. So, let's get started. We know that emotions are a type of mental state. Usually, we can perceive our emotions. That means when you are feeling sad or joyful, you are aware of your current emotional state. So, the G waves related to that emotion are definitely being projected into the G waves display area. At the same time, when we experience certain emotions, various instinctive subdues in our body might change. For example, our pupils might dilate or contract. Our heart rate might increase or decrease, and certain glands might secrete hormones. This means that the G waves related to that emotion are also being projected into the corresponding instinctive subdues. If an emotion is strong enough, obvious behaviors will appear. For instance, you might recoil in disgust, dance with joy, beat your chest in sorrow, confess your love in a frenzy, or even seek revenge in extreme hatred. If we considered if we consider G as the material structure of reaction patterns and G waves as the means to achieve these patterns, then emotions and behaviors are undoubtedly the, the manifestations of these reaction patterns. Behaviors are external, emotions are internal, and emotions often appear before behaviors and promote their appearance. Therefore, we can broadly say that the emergence of emotional reactions is the part of behavioral reactions. Now, pay attention. When we say that the G waves related to emotions are projected into the G waves display area to generate emotions, it doesn't mean that these G waves only produce emotions. Emotions themselves are the presentation of the characteristic structures related to that emotion in the corresponding G waves by the G waves display area. After these G waves are further projected, they will produce various phy- physiological responses. If they are strong enough, they can combine with the characteristic structures in the sensory input G waves to produce behavior G waves, leading to obvious behaviors. Therefore, the appearance of emotions, physiological responses, and behaviors will have a sequence based on the pathway and intensity of the G waves projection. But this sequence doesn't mean that emotions determine behaviors. As a presentation of G waves, emotions cannot decide the behaviors that follow. Usually, when we say that emotions lead to behaviors, it's because the intensity of the emotion reflects the strength of the corresponding G waves, and behaviors are actually pro- prompted by G waves. So, in reality, it should be that the G waves related to a certain emotion lead to behaviors. For convenience, we often say that a certain emotion leads to a certain behavior, even though it's not entirely accurate. In the last chapter, we also mentioned competitive coupling. We know that jealousy is a type of emotion that often appears when someone around us benefits. Objectively speaking, others benefiting has nothing to do with us, and we haven't lost any benefits ourselves. However, after the event of others benefiting is input through sensory waves, it somehow makes us feel jealous. So let's analyze this. Jealousy, as a presentation of G waves, must have an activated G that produces these G waves behind it. How is this G activated? Let's analyze the sensory input G waves. The sensory input G waves are simple and almost only contain two characteristic structures, others and benefiting. These two characteristic structures are dispersed and projected, inevitably activating the corresponding others G and benefiting G. Usually, people's self G is in an activated state. When the benefiting G is activated, it's natural for the G waves of the self G and the benefiting G to combine and produce a simulated G waves of self benefiting. So, it's perfectly normal to imagine yourself benefiting and indulge in fantasies when you see others benefiting. But why do some people feel jealous? Let's continue our analysis. Jealousy includes the sense of loss from not benefiting yourself and the resentment towards the person who benefited. Its occurrence is related to who the beneficiary is. First, if the beneficiary is your intimate lover or family member, jealousy is unlikely to occur. Second, if the beneficiary is someone who has not intersection with your life, jealousy won't be strongly felt either. Third, if the beneficiary is your teacher, elder, or leader, jealousy is also difficult to arise. Actual investigations have found that this emotion is most likely to appear when the beneficiary is someone with a similar identity to you and has intersections with your life, such as colleagues, classmates, siblings, etc. So, the G that makes you feel jealousy when others benefit is naturally most likely related to this, and this G is competitive coupling. The formation of this G is related to the instinctive hatred G formed by competition, competition for mates or food in animal evolution, and is reshaped by multiple similar competitive experiences in later life. The result of similar competition is often that someone benefit and someone lose. So, the activation of the pleasure sub G when you benefit will form G connections with the colleague with the cognitive G of others losing due to the simultaneous activation effect. Similarly, the activation of the discomfort sub-G when you lose will also form G connections with the cognitive G of others benefiting. These two types of G connections will be gradually strengthened by the results of multiple similar competitive experiences. So, others benefiting will activate the discomfort sub-G when you lose through G connections and produce a sense of loss. When you feel lost and others benefit, it's highly likely to activate this instinctive hatred G formed by competition for mates and food in animal evolution, thereby combining to produce possible attack or revenge behavior G waves. And once the revenge G waves are combined and produce the expectation of the other's loss, the pleasure G waves of self benefiting will be activated through the G connections formed by the simultaneous activation effect. When the revenge G waves are not strong or specific enough to produce behaviors, they often manifest as the emotion of jealousy. Alright, everyone, that's all the content today. See you next time. Bye bye.